and for athletes' benefits with plyometrics, so you generate more force, but you just generate just enough to not injure yourself and to improve muscle contraction speeds, neural firing speeds. Whereas, I forgot to change this one. Whereas Golgi tendon organs are in the tendon, and they're associated with several muscle fibers. They are like your strain gauge, so they monitor tension in the tendon, so it's not excessive tension. And if you're, say, bench pressing, it's basically saying, we're not doing that. You might hurt yourself. If you're trying to do that, pushing too much weight or pulling too much weight, you could tear muscle from the tendon. And it is quite something to see an athlete when they have torn muscle from the tendon. I don't know if any of you ever seen anyone do it, but it's pretty interesting, especially when the bicep will tear. It'll generally curl up into the shoulder joint, the glenohumeral joint, and so when they curl, there's just like nothing there. Or similarly with the
but that's super painful to tear muscle.
Or with the pectoralis, it generally might come down, because generally it's going to tear at that tendon.
Don't they have to do surgery to repair it?
Generally, yes. Yeah, so that's a bad day. Ouch. So it is stimulated by excessive tension, which is what you were starting to learn about with PNF. I'm just going to say PNF instead of proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation, because it inhibits that muscle you want to move. Is that agonist? You did that last time with the hamstring stretch, correct? So you give it that little extra point, so where you feel that twinge, and it starts, the Golgi tendon kicks in, says, no, let's not do that. And causes the other muscles, which would be the quadriceps, hip flexor, to work to carry that load so you don't start to injure them. So it prevents excessive tension and reducing injury risk. So we'll go over that again, where you can do a stretch pattern working the antagonist muscle group to cause a stretch in the agonist. But again, which is responsible for monitoring stretch, muscle spindles or Golgi tendon organs?
Golgi tendon.
No. Muscle spindles monitor rate of length of change and muscle stretch. But we work on these to improve stretch. These monitor muscle tension. Yeah, I don't want you.
Golgi tendons measure tension.
Monitor tension in the muscle.
Okay.
And in the tendon. But we work on them within therapy and sports, so we develop more strength and more flexibility, a better stretch because of inhibiting the agonist. So you get a better stretch by working on them. We get more power and muscle force from working on the muscle spindles through plyometrics. Because when you were going through a jump pattern, doing a depth jump, you're causing that, which I'm going to go in step by step, but what you're doing is you're storing potential energy and it causing a stress reflex to then explode, and then you've got that potential becoming kinetic energy. So again, here they are. See how they're connected. See here, central region, muscle spindle. They don't have a lot of myofilaments, and you see where they are located. So stimulation of the muscle spindles causes a reflex contraction, and this is called the myotatic reflex. Within these muscle spindles are what are called different types of interfusal fibers: nuclear bag, nuclear chain. And innervated by annulospiral and flower spray neurons. So they look a little different, and their stretch or shortened within the whole muscle. Flower spray nerve endings provide information about muscle length, while annulospiral respond to the rate of length of change. So, stimulation of gamma motor neurons produce a contraction of the interfusal fiber. So that's your, and the stretch reflex has a static and dynamic component. Dynamic is a sudden change in length of muscle, and what it does is it works through reciprocal inhibition. That's reflex reaction of the antagonist muscle in response to contraction of the agonist. So we load up the gastrocnemius for the calf, and that's going to help with contraction of our quad, right? Because that would be an antagonist or agonist that is going to cause knee extension. So as soon as the lengthening of the muscle stops increasing, the rate of impulse returns to its normal level, and then it's going to give that energy transmission. Does this make sense, or is it kind of going over? Okay. They also respond for muscle tone, so that you adapt to, Mandy, do you want to hand me just one of the weights? It doesn't have to be heavy. So they also monitor smooth movement patterns, because if you were to drop this in your hand, you don't want it to just fall to the floor. What happens? Does your body respond to that? Remember we did this in the kinesiology lab?
Yeah.
This is how it's working through the muscle spindles, so it's maintaining proper load and muscle tone.
So your Golgi,
Your muscle spindles are working, like when you necessarily catch something.
the Golgi tendons, they keep it from overextending.
Yes, from too much tension in the muscle.
Too much tension, yeah.
Yes, you could say overstretch, but generally they are responsible for tension in the muscle.
Okay, I got you.
I don't want you to get confused. That's a typical error. A lot of people, when they're learning about the difference between the two, is, I mean, yes, they help with our stretch, but they're responsible for muscle tension. So muscle spindles help us maintain proper movement load and just muscle tone. So nice smooth movement. Otherwise, it would be catch it and then just drop. So the muscle spindles are working when you throw the med ball at your partner and you're catching it and then reloading it, which is another plyometric activity. May not seem like it, just may seem like annoying conditioning, but there's science behind it. What's that? So, muscle spindles usually give off low-level sensory signals to help that maintain tone against gravity, load being applied. So, these are typical test questions. How they're important and why they are so important, and why they are used within conditioning, strength and conditioning, and want to work on keeping those in mind in the training program. Plyometrics really help out with reaction time, power development. So, let me see. And you know a lot of plyometrics, I bet, right? Depth jumps, box jumps. So if I were to do a jump right now, even though I'm really close to the camera, and jump up, that would technically be a plyometric.
Burpees would be also plyometric, right?
Not necessarily, because it's generally you want plyometrics to really focus on either speed of contraction or power. So if you want to work on power, we go for height. If we want quick movement patterns, then we think of like the ladder.
Yeah, that's right.
Or we could do rapid toe touches. Boom, boom, like bringing my feet up really quickly just for a certain amount of time. Should we do them for a minute straight?
Probably not. 30 seconds.
Probably closer to 30 seconds. Why would you want to do that?
Because you don't want to tire your muscle fibers.
You're on the right path. Remember our energy systems.
Yeah.
If we're wanting to develop power and strength, think of our time component. We want to probably keep it around 30 seconds or less.
Yeah.
So if you say, so a coach tells you to do it for 2 minutes, that's an aerobic activity, and you're not helping yourself.
Right.
That's why it's very eye-opening, especially for you, when you go to your conditioning practices or just watch other teams condition. And if you ask the coach what they're doing, they tell you one thing, but it is totally different. Yeah. It used to drive me nuts when I go down to the weight room and see almost any sport coach, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're working on this." I'm like, "No, you're not." Plyometrics, you're really better off not doing anymore if you're like just going to really focus on power. No more than maybe 6 to 8 jumps at a time, because you want to focus on. It's not. Depends on what you really want to work.
More so explosion.
Yeah.
Hmm?
How many you should do?
Yes. So it just kills me when they do that. You'll be amazed. All the things you're about to learn, and you're like, man, they really
That does make a lot of
coaches
sense.
don't know how to put a program together. And it's, I mean, part of it is just they don't know, but
know how.
you need to know who to look for to help you with that.
That's right.
That's where strength and conditioning.
Coaches
That's why they make the big money at
Right.
the big schools and the pros, because this is a lot of science to
Yeah,
it.
yeah, sure.
So, Golgi tendon organs are going to work kind of. It's called the inverse myotic reflex, similar static and dynamic component. So they are down here, the muscle tendon changeover, and they're intertwined with collagen fibers. You got to be really strong. Tendon is strong because it has to take that force and load applied to the muscle to move the skeletal system. So contraction of the skeletal muscle results in tension, which stimulates the GTO in the tendon, and that causes inhibitory action, so leads to relaxation of the contracted muscle. So the muscle group originally giving off experiencing the tension is relaxed. So who would like to be a subject to go through this?
Jakari.
All right, thank you for volunteering, Jakari. Mandy or Devontae, I'm going to have you take the GoPro, and we're just going to show this. We're going to do a demonstration of GTOs in effect. So just lay on your back. And what we're going to do is, I'm going to do, like we did in the lab, we're going to do a quick comparison. Do you mind taking the whatever's in your pockets out so it doesn't get in the way?
All right.
No, it's okay. So, I'm going to start off with your left leg. We're just going to do a static stretch. I'm going to bend your knee first. And then just takes out the component of the hip flexor. And if I had to guesstimate, you're probably just around 90 degrees.
Yeah, looks like it.
Okay. If
Right
we
angle.
hold this for about 15, 30 seconds, a couple of times, we'll get some improvement. But what I'm going to do now, next, is relax. Is just bring your hip up. What I'm going to do next is then a version of a PNF. What I want you to do is pump your toes up and down for me so you don't lose feeling in your leg. All right, relax. So what I'm going to do is tell me when you feel a little bit of a twinge in your hamstring.
Yeah.
Now? Okay. So what I'm going to have you do is I want you to push against my hand. Oh, hold on, just relax. I'll tell you when. I want you to contract your quad.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you're doing now. We're going to count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then push against my hand. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Generally, and relax. Generally go for about a 10-second on the antagonist and then a 6 on the agonist. Now see if you feel like it's improved, that range of motion.
Yeah.
And that's how this will work. You can actually do activation of the hip flexor, even though it'll cramp up very easily, just because of the position you're in. But you can contract the quadricep, and that causes that relaxation of the hamstring. Or generally, it'll just cause that, and it'll relax anyway on its own because you're getting some sensory fibers wanting to kick in, so it's not causing that pain. I add another effect into it too to work on through the full range of motion. There may be a little bit of debate whether it helps or not, but I've found in my practice, if you have the athlete or patient contract and push down all the way through their range of motion, it helps with getting the entire hamstring belly, and then you just notice it'll improve. So if we were to do this 2 or 3 more times, you would probably gain at least 10 to 15 degrees of range of motion. So does it feel a little looser? And that is an example of working the Golgi tendon organs. So you feel that tension, and that's what we mean by it. So we're working on that tension to get that stretch. And I think that just about covers it for today. Just to review, fine motor control has fewer fibers per motor unit, and then they have a lower threshold, whereas gross motor control, movement of those hamstrings, the bigger muscle group, quad, those are going to have much more fibers per motor unit and give you much more power when they are activated. Okay? So motor neuron may actually, if it's alpha 1 versus alpha 2, remember alpha 1 is your fast twitch, alpha 2 should be your slow twitch. Will also determine fiber type. Any questions? So I think this pretty well covers it. Very important for being able to apply it to the conditioning,